Thanks for joining me again as we continue with this meme that's more of a story with holes than it is a whole story.
I think with that propaganda.
All right, let's take the next statement on this meme. Conservatives oppose blacks and women's voting. Liberals won. Okay, we've already established that liberals are those who take liberties with the Constitution to justify depriving people of their rights. They did it back then, and they do it today. If you take liberties with the Constitution, you can justify the position that women can't vote. The Constitution doesn't say that women can't vote, but Democrats took the liberty to insist that it does, because the Constitution didn't mention the word women. So Democrats persisted with the idea that the Constitution was male-centric and used that to keep women from voting. Nowadays, Democrats do the same with females that they do with blacks. Democrats pander to feminists by instigating that the Constitution is anti-woman, and feminists end up being happy to vote for a party that represents what is antithetical to the Constitution. Not realizing that out of spite, they're giving the state the power to infringe upon our God-given rights. But the Republicans who interpret the Constitution conservatively were the allies of the women's suffragist movement. The Republican Party was founded on abolition, and the suffragists were mostly abolitionists, and they allied with Republicans. It was with Republican support that the right to vote for women was affirmed, because Republicans interpret the Constitution conservatively and did not see anywhere in the Constitution that women cannot vote. Democrats, on the other hand, who make liberal interpretations of the Constitution, took liberties and assumed that since the Constitution doesn't specifically say women, then they don't have rights, which means women can be treated as property. But Republicans with conservative interpretation kept to what the founding document said. All men are created equal. Not all men are equal, not all men are born equal, but created equal, which means your God-given rights are in effect upon your creation. And during that time, they didn't know whether you were a male or female in the womb. But Republicans conservatively kept to what the Constitution says. So whatever gender was in that womb, it didn't matter. It was a creation, and created equal with certain inalienable rights that could not be taken away upon being born and discovering she's a girl. Oh, it's a girl. Well, she'll never be able to vote or hold office. But Republicans didn't see it that way. Democrats did. That's why upon your creation, you have rights that cannot be taken away. So when a kid is born and revealed that it's a female, you can't deprive her of her God-given rights. And we've seen some examples of that in some other countries, where gendercide is in effect where girls are targeted for abortion. And the sad irony is that feminists are more interested in their right to abort kids than they are protecting the rights of girls to live. And on a side note, upon our creation, we all basically start off as female, which I reckon means women are granted God-given rights before men are. Ladies first. Next, conservatives oppose child labor laws. Liberals won. Once again, Democrats try to throw people off their evil scent by switching labels to conservative. First up, the Democrats are already busted for slavery and for being cowards by trying to take that KKK hood off of theirs and pulling it over your eyes backwards so you can't see while they blame conservatives for Democrat evils. But since we know that Democrats were the party that wanted slavery, well, that means that a lot of those slaves were children. Don't let Democrats give you some crap that they were the champions for child labor laws by trying to say it was conservatives who opposed child labor laws. Democrats were the ones who were forcing child slaves into labor. Democrats were the ones who made liberal interpretations of the Constitution to deprive kids of their right to liberty, which also included the liberty to learn how to read and be educated. Democrats were the party of child labor. But here they are trying to hoodwink people by saying it was conservatives, like conservative is a dirty word. But liberalism works on people who don't think. To be a conservative with our Constitution is to keep and maintain the protection of our God-given rights so we can keep and enjoy our republic. To a liberal, it means to exploit our freedoms and enjoy them at the forced expense of someone else because you feel entitled to do so. And it wasn't really about conservatives opposing child labor laws. It was the unions, because the unions didn't want to have to compete with children who could be paid a lower wage, just like the unions didn't want blacks or the Chinese to be hired because they didn't want to compete with the wages they would work for. And it was the Democrats that got into bed with the unions a long time ago because they were happy to see white men get paying jobs before blacks or Chinese. They hated that so much that they'd even give an Irishman a job, and they hated Irish people. Does Nina come to mind? The Irish were treated horribly, and the Irish are a big part of why the union was started, and for good reason the union was started. But just like anything else good, the Democrats co-opted and ruined it. I talk about this stuff in my audio book, Weapon of Mass Destruction. I talk about a lot of stuff in that book. So while you're waiting for the next ZoNation, download your copy. You can be done listening to it by the next one. Liberalism works on people who don't think.